Y'all are about to watch a video of the Bi-xenon Projector retrofit I did on my 1996 Ford F-150. I'm going to address a couple things because I can already predict some of the comments. Yes, this is a really long video, and it shows everything that went wrong, how I fixed it. I did miss a few things because I forgot to record a couple parts. It's not a how-to, but it is a long video. It's just to show what can go wrong, and other things you'll run into when doing this, like I had to trim the housing and all this other stuff. So this is kind of for the people that actually want to do it. Can be for entertainment too, obviously. Why would I care who watches it? But hope it helps someone. It's kind of why I left all this stuff in. There's a lot of incessant rambling going on, but either way, that's just me. So I do hope it is of help to somebody. And the second part, why didn't I do LEDs? Tried Bi-LED projectors in my Malibu. Didn't like how they came out because they're a little bit too narrow. Not that they're narrow, but they were pretty wide, but the hot spot in the center was just too much, so it made it appear narrow. And 6,000 degrees Kelvin is the only color you can really get those things in, and I don't like the bluish color. I like the pure white. So I went with that. That's why. Didn't do plug and play LEDs because just yikes, those are terrible and don't work well in most scenarios. A lot of people say they do, but every single time I see them, it's either too much foreground, too much glare, and people are saying, screw everyone else, I live in the country, I gotta see the deer from far away. I did it the right way. I did it like, this is a replica of what you'd see in like a factory setting, pretty much. I tried to make it look as nice and plain as I could, and make it proper so I can see well, and I really can see very well with these. I'm very happy with how they came out. But yeah, that's why I did it the way I did it. That's why the video's long, and that's why I didn't do LEDs. So people are gonna have something to say, of course. Oftentimes I'll make posts in other places and, why'd you do that? It's not worth it, and whatever else. It's fine. Less than 150 bucks. Not that bad. So yeah, I hope this helps someone, and have fun with it if you get all the way through the video.
So right here we have my questionably put together 1996 Ford F-150, and one of the things that have always bothered me on this truck is how much the headlights kind of suck. I mean, granted, for factory headlights, they're probably better than most things that take I think a 9007 bulb, but I've done all kinds of stupid things over the years. When I was in like middle school, when I first got the truck, I went on eBay and put like plug and play LEDs in it, and I was blinding everyone, and I ripped those out and put HIDs in, also plug and play. Never got flashed. You stand in front of it, there's not glare. You stand away from it, there's not glare, right? But the issue that I ended up running into was that low beam actually works fine enough to see, but not good enough. And high beam is just gone. It's not good. So we're gonna do a retrofit with a Acme standard D2S projector. You can see how I got all this stuff like kind of rigged up, and then like that's a pop can I cut up. I haven't driven this truck in a very long time, so it's not getting the love and care that it needs. I mean, there's one of the old ballasts that I just abandoned and left on the fender. Then the replacement ballast just hanging in there. Lots of stuff that's messed up. Of all things on this truck, of all things to still work without having to be messed with, the AC. Not sure how, but anyway, that's past the point. In order to remove the headlight, I have to take this bezel off. In order to take this bezel off, I have to move the battery out of the way. This is supposed to be a 10mm bolt from what I read into. However, this truck has been crashed multiple times. It's on its fourth door. Anyway, during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, somewhere in between there, cocaine was the drug of choice, especially in office buildings. This was common throughout the United States and other North American countries, and I suspect that's what led to the decision of having to move a battery and, on the other side, a coolant jug out of the way in order to remove a headlight housing. They say modern cars are hard to work on. That was made the year this body style was discontinued. You do not need any tools to remove the headlights. They pop out. You just pull up on some tabs by hand. But then again, there's the newer Malibus where you have to remove the bumper just to replace the headlights. You can go back and forth on that. Now, having been crashed a few times, someone has replaced this with a 12mm nut. However, the thread is the same. seeing as to how small of a thread that is, that's going to be a very weird looking nut when it comes out, but either way. So I have figured something out that if you're watching this and you have one of these, it may help you, or if you want to get one, it may help you, but you don't have to take this bezel off to take the headlight off. It makes it a lot easier. I have to take them off anyway because this lens is cracked, and on the other side that lens is cracked, because if you look at the color difference, I believe this is acrylic and this is polycarbonate. So acrylic, very resistant to UV, doesn't really yellow unless you really, really give it heat. But the issue with it is that it cracks very easily. Polycarbonate, you can stand on it and it won't break, but it turns yellow very easily. Yeah, same thing here. There's a crack running through it. But there's two ways you can get it out. So there's these tabs you pull up on here. They look like this. If you get, a pick or an awl of some sort, pretend that's one, you can stick it in there and just kind of pull up on it. Well, the next tab is right down there. You can see it. So that piece right there. You can get back there with one and just yank it out and this will come out. Option 2 is you come at these little things. They're these locking pieces that go on the adjusters. They rotate and they go into this part of the housing right here. If you have some long awkwardly shaped needle nose pliers, do not use a flathead. You'll shear the piece of it right off. What you can get away with is grabbing that piece in there and just twisting it, and you only have to take these 2 screws out, which are missing on mine anyway. But that's not worth the effort for me because I have to squeeze in and everything. I have to take this off, so I'm not going to do it, but food for thought. Here we can see the piece where the nut would have gone on, and then there was another one, but it unthreaded itself from the housing, which is probably for the better, because then I can leave that in place and I don't have to worry about the nut falling off when I try to put it back on. On this side it just fell off, because I thought it would do the same, but it did not. And I can see why. This metal bracket stops it from doing that. It can't really move out very well. Alright, so rather than popping that clip out of the back there, which is really annoying to get to, what I like to do is with vice grips or pliers of some sort, just kind of grab this piece and twist. It does help to take the first one out, the first 2, because this is like a ball joint, and then you can tilt it down and get more access. Also, what the hell is this? Strange. Alright, so now after moving it and breaking like 2 or 3 adjusters and clips, I gotta heat the lens up. Basically getting this rubber to be really tacky so I can just pry it right off. Oven is ideal, but I don't know what chemicals are in this, and putting it in the same box that I heat my food up in is kind of sketchy to me, so I'd rather just breathe them in right here. Basically just pries apart once you got it heated up. Just gotta go easy on it so you don't break this lip off. If you do, it's not a big deal. I've had it where I broke a whole section out of it and just used the butyl rubber to put it back together. Perfectly fine. Didn't get any water in, even though you're really not supposed to do that. But basically, now that I've gotten that side open, I'm just going to follow along to this side and heat it up enough to where that butyl rubber starts to bubble up. You can feel it with your hand if you want, but it's just not ideal because you burn yourself pretty bad. I always like to do 2 sides of the corner at a time, because if I just undo, let's see, I've got this side undone, this side's heated up, so this would just pry off and it would catch this lip and snap it right off. So it's ideal to get it all evenly. You can see the absolute mess that's in this room, because this is where I do all my projects. I just basically like to go across, rather than sitting in one spot and letting the heat concentrate, except for like in this case where there's a bunch of this stuff. I like to go evenly to let all the heat seep in, because otherwise I'm just going to melt it on the outer surface and it'll look like it's going to pop off and then rip the lip right off.
And then with a little bit more prying, it just kind of comes apart without breaking anything. Even better, it's clean off. So usually it's a gooey, tacky mess, but this being almost 30 years old, it'll do that. Now I'm putting a clear lens on this, but I'm also putting a projector in it. These fluted lenses are, well, there's two types. There's ones that are just decorative, and there's ones that refract the light and throw it in a certain way. This is that style of lens. So if I were to just put a clear lens on it and a bulb in it, it'd be very bad because it would completely throw off the beam pattern. It would just be like a spot. Likewise, if I put this on with a projector, it would not come out as the same pattern. There are aftermarket clear halogen housings, but they have all kinds of little perforations in them to make it maintain the correct shape. But you can see how much of a mess this is. This was filled with water. This piece is rusted, but thankfully the chrome seems to be in pretty good condition. I don't want to have to remove that, so that's good. This one had water intrusion issues, much worse than the other side. You can see I did some creative engineering to try to solve that, and it kind of helped, but not really. I had to drill a hole in the lens. So these headlights were done for, and I tried restoring them a few times, and they'd yellow back over again because I was using the auto parts store kits, and really you're supposed to sand them down and clear coat them with like a 2K clear. It's $20 or something a can, usually more actually, and you can only use the can once, so I wasn't up for that, and well, look at me now. But either way, we're getting new lenses. This one's a little cloudy, but it's also the one that had water in it. I'm hoping the water didn't break down the chrome plating and I could keep it, but we will see. Oddly enough, the one that had less water in it is all rusty, but I suspect that has something to do with aeration once I drilled the hole. But yeah, sure enough, it's like you just pull on. They kind of come in. There's two pieces, but as soon as I turn the camera off, it'll pop right out. Guess I lied because that one's not quite a fight, but I guess the next step is to clean these housings, especially this one. Yeah, I guess the chrome plating underneath is fine. It's just dust. So now comes the fun of figuring out how I'm going to get everything to fit. I ended up having to chip away at these pieces here that was, they were holding in the shroud that went around the bulb. So I chipped away at them, and I think I'm going to run the high beam shutter wire through it. I did end up drilling this out too. So basically, I've got this rubber washer here. I think it's silicone. Now I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with these wires. I can either run them through this top hole here and silicone them shut, but then the issue comes is they wrap around the bowl, which is metal and conducts heat very well, and I bet it would melt the insulation. Another thing I can do is run it under, and even if I pull it perfectly tight, it won't touch the bowl. It goes straight from the solenoid out through here. It's not really chafing on anything as much as it looks like it. It is away from the threads, and there's like gasket on both sides. So it's all sandwiched nice between rubbery stuff that won't cut through it, but I gotta make sure that through movement it won't do anything else. I don't know, I might cut a little slot. That's what I did on my Grand Prix. I had a little slot, and when you tighten it all the way down, the wires couldn't actually reach where the threads are. So I'll probably just have to chip away a bit at that housing and we'll make it work. A lot of other guys will just drill a hole and silicone it, and I don't know, I don't like that. But something like that. When I did the retrofit on my Grand Prix, those headlight housings were terrible quality, but it did make for an easy way to just take a pair of pliers and chip a little piece off if you need it. Tried that on this and broke a whole corner, so a corner if you can call it that, but it's a little bit too much. I'm not too worried about it though, because when you do these type of things, once you line up the projector, like when it's mounted in the truck, you're supposed to epoxy it shut, so that'll keep any water out. I mean, really how it is, it's fine. The gasket is on it, but it's still kind of... Realistically, water wouldn't get into it, but it still kind of worries me. So it's going to get epoxied once it's done so the projector doesn't move, and then no water will get in. But really, the ring and the shaft is just for ease of installation. Alright, so I've gotten this one more how I like it. And basically, this just goes in to the hole like that. Then you got this on the other side. You could see the relief cut I did for the wiring, and because it's below where this little ring is. When I put the lock nut on it, the wire won't be able to go against the threads and short out or chew up or anything. That's what I was going for on the other one. And you can see now how that wire is like tightly squeezed between the plastic and the ring, and there's no sharp edges touching it. There's nothing like that. So that's how I like to do it. Probably wrong in a lot of people's eyes, but you can see what we're starting off with here. Well, my shrouds arrived in the mail, and there's nothing better than some subtractive manufacturing, if we'll call it that, to trim them up and make them fit. Works surprisingly well. It's supposed to look like this when it's done. So these have these little tabs that are supposed to kind of click it into place, but that sticks out too much for that to actually click in. So yeah, it's supposed to look like that. Alright, so now that I've gotten everything together, I was looking at lenses and I'm like, well, maybe I can use my fluted ones. And it's like, yeah, they can be restored. They've already been a few times. You can see the clear coat fading. It's, you know, it's been through, it's almost a 30-year-old truck. It's been crashed once. The headlights are probably off another truck. This was the last year. So considering these are OEM Ford headlights and one's yellowed more than the other, it's probably off a different truck, and statistically likely it's an older truck too. So these headlights are probably 30-something years old at this point. So what I decided to do is try this lens. It looks fine. The only issue is now that there's a bunch of glare, because most regular reflectors have a bunch of little perforations in it, and it all just acts as a funky mirror to not throw light past a cutoff point, that cutoff line. The way these ones do is it's just a bowl that throws light out for the most part. There still is some science to it. And what this lens does is it directs the light. These little flutes are all angled to shine light a certain way. If you notice when I put my finger in front of it, certain points it's more clear than others, and as you look at it from different angles, that clarity changes. Well, that's how it throws the light. That's what kind of how it decides the cutoff, for lack of better words. So I can't use this because while it does still shine, like the cutoff off of this shines in the same place where the cutoff from that would go, but because it's so bright, even though it has pretty much the same beam pattern as factory, there still is a little bit that protrudes past the cutoff, and it's glary to other drivers. Probably not worse than most factory vehicles, but I don't like that, you know? I want it to be perfect. 30-some odd dollars and playing with the eBay settings later, and I found myself clear lenses. Now, I thought these were clear lenses, and then I posted them in a Facebook group. Somebody mentioned that they're actually covers, and I'm like, they are covers, because all the other listings that were similar were covers that snapped over, and they were all listed the same, right? Well, turns out these ones are actually not snap-on covers. These are like legit lenses. So what I was going to do was buy what I thought was a snap-on cover, snap it over that lens, and then just cut everything out, leave the rim, glue it in with some sort of white or black adhesive so you can't see the yellowness, and it would have been fine, but I don't got to do all that. So I'm just going to glue this on, do a PPF film, well, paint protection film. Yeah, not correct. Anyway, to attach it, I use this. You get it at Home Depot. This was like $5, and it is 40 feet of it, and you kind of roll it up and stuff it in, so it equates to more than 40 feet when you actually use it. So you can do a whole bunch of headlights with this. All my headlights I've done, and yeah, it's not dedicated headlight butyl, and it's probably chemically different, but it works. I haven't had it leak. I can't pry it apart without using heat. It's very easy to work with. It's very easy to heat up, and then just sink the lens in, and it grabs as it cools pretty quickly. So I've gotten a good seal with this. I trust it. It's really cheap, and I can get it at Home Depot instead of having to buy it somewhere online. So onwards we go. Or is it onward? I don't know. But anyway. So now I just hit it with a heat gun until this butyl gets not necessarily bubbly. That's not good for it, but just kind of tacky. I'm going to show a time lapse of me doing it. So I had some silicone on the headlight housing, and I touched everything with it. It's a good thing I kept that protective film on the lens, but yikes. The lens doesn't fit. It's like a millimeter too short. That's why cheap stuff isn't always the best, but it's literally the only option. So I have no choice but to clamp it until the butyl dries. Alright, so seems fine at first glance now that it's all sealed up, right? But if you look closely, I had to use so much butyl that it actually shot out past because of the lens alignment issue. But I got it to seal finally. It took I just had to heat it up and get it really, really warm. But it's pressed on everywhere now. It's just, I gotta trim that butyl. But every single bit of this is over the edge at least. So it's seated correctly, it's not popping off. I dropped it, and the shroud fell off because the force of it broke one of the tabs off. It still did pop back into place, but I put some adhesive on it for good measure. But yeah, it's, looks nice. Now to show how this kind of goes together, you've got this, it comes in a roll like that, and what I do is I put it into this channel and kind of stretch it out until it's, stretch it out like that, push it in until it's flush, and then heat it up, press it on. Alright, so disassembly is just the opposite of assembly, so assembly is the opposite of disassembly. Throw it all together, cut your hand on the core support, everything slightly doesn't fit. Wonder what drugs Ford engineers at the time were ingesting once again, and then finally put it together after almost giving up. So for wiring, I've got this relay kit, because on these trucks when you activate the high beams, the low beam circuit shuts off, and because the ballast would be run off the low beam circuit, it would just turn on the solenoid, activate the high beam, but there'd be no light coming out. So this relay kit, or maybe it's a big diode, I don't know what's in it, but it just feeds straight off the battery, and we're gonna ignore this. This is a different problem. This all is gonna get changed, but feeds off the battery right here. This is grounded somewhere. There's a fuse for it. I don't know where that relay pack is even sitting. All I know is it works. Yep, there it is. Zip tied in place. Wonderful. Gotta fix that too. It's missing screws, and like I said, this truck was crashed and put back together. And anyway, piece by piece, right? I had these in there, and like I said earlier in the video, they performed fine for low beam. Like, you could actually see that it wasn't an excess of foreground. It did throw light out pretty far, but there was just too much of a hot spot. I didn't like it, so off it goes. However, this relay kit is exactly what I need. Now, for the high beam, on these, this bulb just pushes in and out, right? You have this solenoid here inside the bulb that feeds off of this circuit. So this feeds the ballast. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the ballast straight to where this plug would have been, and cut the plug off, and I'm going to splice the plug onto here, onto the high beam circuit, because this guy right here is going to feed off of that, and it's the same connector, so why not use what I have? I'm going to use these very controversial in the automotive community splice barrels, or butt splices, but I'm going to put heat shrink on them so that water doesn't get in. Now, mind you, if you look here, this isn't exactly a watertight connector, and it's been on here for a little while. Water doesn't really get to this part, so it's going to be sealed in a dry environment, except for ambient moisture. It'll be fine. But anyway, before that, I got these chrome bezels with good lights. Just the bottom one was bad out of that, but it happens to be that mine is good, so swap it in. I gotta go back to the yard and get a chrome grill to match. Maybe adjust that bumper, because it's sagging on one side. Don't know why. It's a problem on these Fords. But either way, there's my old adjuster. Throw everything together, and we'll see how it goes. I do like these Gen 3 heliballasts. This one came off a BMW X5. I think I mentioned it earlier. But either way, if you notice, there's 4 spots for the pins instead of 2. So you can put this at pretty much any, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position. Either way, 90 degrees off. So it's great for different applications where maybe the headlight access port in a retrofit is going to be in a different spot, different orientation. I like these a lot. They're really, good for that because they use these ballasts in a lot of stuff, not just BMW. There's Audi. I think Lexus, some stuff had it, and some American cars do. So, yeah, multi-application. It's great for stuff like this. Also, don't ever have this without a bulb and apply power to it because it's going to arc, all kinds of stuff. It could theoretically kill you, so don't mess with it like that. Just have it all connected. This is not necessarily something to play around with. Again, this is in a dry environment, so I'm not too worried about water intrusion with these. It does look like the contacts are potted. We'll see how that holds up. Should be fine. There's not water getting to this. Even like water dripping behind the headlight, it doesn't get back there because it sits all the way in here. It'd kind of go around. It wouldn't creep up. But I'll keep an eye on it. If I start to get corrosion, these ballasts are a dime a dozen at the junkyard, and I'll probably just do dielectric grease or maybe, PVC pipe with a cap on it for weatherproofing. We'll see. But for now, this will do. Alright, so I found myself a nice grill. $30 later, but they did let me off with a couple bulbs and clips and stuff for free, which sometimes they charge for. Oh yeah, and these things. Turns out that there's supposed to be something that goes here. I'm assuming for air diversion. I don't know. But either way, I don't even know why this is here. I'm going to change the grill out to match all the chrome because blacked out looks good on a lot of vehicles, but this looks too utilitarian. So I don't like that. I want it to be something nice rather than just beat up old truck. As much as it is just a beat up old truck. I mean, you see the rest of the vehicle, you see the condition it's in, how it's not rotted out like every other arrow nose or bull nose or brick nose F-150 you see. It's got some surface going, but it's been taken care of, so I want it to be nice. Anyway, I digress. This only has 2 screws holding it in. I think maybe 3 if the one down there is applicable. This one has some overspray on it. I think I bought it like that from the flea market because I haven't painted anything on the front of the vehicle. I haven't painted anything next to it in that silver color either, so yeah, it is missing the 1 screw down there. Oh boy. Looks like a transcooler leak. That's not good. Probably should look into that. Oh, it's just a seep. I don't know. No, this truck's getting manual swapped soon, and it's not like it's exactly leaving anything behind. That stain has been there since before the truck was parked here. That's a different problem for a different day. Want to do a ZF5, but I'll settle for an M5 OD. Like what, R2 I think. This here headlight bracket, well, everything in the front bracket is cracked. That's not good, but oh well. I grabbed all the clips in anticipation of them being missing, but they're here. So it's good to have spares because I know they're missing in other spots on the truck. I believe the interior pieces are attached the same way. Behind the dash, you click those in and put a screw in through the front, but instead of Phillips, it's a hex head. Either way, nice to have the clips. At least I have the spare screws because it was not put in with all the screws, which is probably why going down the road and hitting potholes, this thing sounded like a bag of cans. Very simple grill design, just kind of falls into place right there. You see there's a little pin that sticks out. Just fold it in, push it, and throw all the hardware off of your core support into your engine bay from the vibration, right? Then just screws. It's looking better for sure. I like the chrome. It's really grown on me now that I'm putting it together. So it's just 5 screws that hold this thing on. 4 there, and then the one here that seems to be forgotten about. I see them at the junkyards all the time with them taken out. But, yeah, and they're good enough. Probably won't be clattering around as much anymore, which is nice. Although with the headlight bracket being broken, I do worry sometimes that maybe I'll hit a bump or something and it'll crack all the way and take the grill with it, but who knows? We'll see. I do already have this just stuck into there. I gotta finish putting all the clips in, and they just push in like that.
so they seat all the way. I'm really good at pointing the camera away from what I'm doing. This is great. Might as well make this a podcast at this point. Oh, I forgot that clip. Now, this has 2 tabs. These ones right here on either side that you have to push in when you open it to unlock it. But to close it, you just have to turn it. And then it'll click into place silently. Boom, this headlight is fully installed. Just got to do the other side and then the wiring. On this replacement, I did have this piece crack upon removal, but I went and literally every other truck in the yard had it cracked in the same spot. So I just glued it back. Should be fine. Super glue will hold. I've done worse, and if it doesn't, then I'll swap it out. But either way, they're nice. They're not cracked. I gotta take this one out of the original, probably not original, but either way, and put it into here because the one was fully shattered. Now what's going to be tricky is getting this adjuster in, because I tried removing it the same way that I did that one and I broke it because I didn't push up on the tabs. So it's going to be a bit tricky, but I can set the camera down. Can I? Maybe? I don't know. Shit. There we go. Gotta pull this clip out. There we go. And then push this adjuster in. Oh, right where the phone is sitting. Great. But either way, I just have to push it in and then get this clip in behind. But it's kind of difficult because there's not a lot of space to work with. And when you push that clip down, it pushes this piece out. There's only so much space for it to bite. I think I got it on. Yeah, I did. Okay. Then I gotta come back through with like a screwdriver and a hammer or something to just tap it into place. Gotta make sure this is in this correct spot. How does it sit? There's a little cutout. Yep, it's not. Should have poked through. This is why I check before I push everything all together. Back out. There we go. Perfect. And now I can just pop the other headlight in and then wire the ballasts, and after the ballasts are wired and mounted, just pop the bezels back on and put everything back. I'm pretty much done after that. I was going to put a new coolant jug on it, and I removed one at the junkyard, left because they were about to close, and I didn't have a wheelbarrow with me and had all my other stuff, and it was the least priority. Came back, and on the same truck there was a different coolant reservoir off of another F-150 with the tab broken, and all the hardware I had nicely removed, just strewn all about. So somebody probably picked one off a different truck, found the nicer one I removed and took it and left that in there. But it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. Could probably just zip tie that for now. It's not like zip ties are a foreign concept to this truck. I'm looking at it like, what the hell? There's a starter solenoid wiring run with thermoplastic. What the fuck? Anyway, I think I'm just going to do a time lapse of me putting the thing back together. Because why not? So, dealing with something kind of weird here. I believe these bulbs were like the universal 9007, 9004. And so high and low beam are reversed. So I just reversed the harness. So as soon as you turn the power on, these would go into what would be the high beam mode, which was the low beam for the original housing. Stupid, whatever.
I gotta change this plug back, and holy hell, do I have it wired wrong. Did on my Grand Prix when I did a retrofit was this. Just one of these relays you get in most GM cars from the early 2000s, blocking diode from the AC compressor, right? And then I just soldered it all together and heat shrunk it so moisture couldn't get in, and shoved it in behind the headlight, and it's been fine since. This is the schematic for what I did. It's kind of hard to see, but high beam plus and solenoid for the high beam on the projector both go to one winding, or one side of the winding on the relay, and then negative goes to the other side, and then the low plus for the projector and for the, or not the projector, for the ballast and the car's wiring are just bridged together. Same thing for that negative. And then when you switch it on normally low beam, it just dumps power into the ballast. When you switch it on high, this leg shuts off and it switches to this one, and so that activates the relay to send power back into the low beam plus. So the projector ballast still stays on, but the projector solenoid is also open to let the, change the cutoff so you get the high beam. If I were to not have this diode here, what happens is you turn the high beam on and it's just an endless feedback loop until you shut off power to the whole setup. So this prevents it from feeding back. It's a terrible explanation, but basically, here's the Grand Prix. You can see the projectors in there. The lenses are, I restored them. Everything came out nice, but they do have micro cracks within the plastic, so I got to change them because it's still not as nice as I'd want it to be. Basically, you switch these on, and they're in their normal low beam mode. You can see the battery might be dead, so when I put them in high beam, just the extra draw of the relays and the solenoids might kill one side. Basically, switching on. Yep, sure enough, see it flickering because the battery's dying, but as I flick it back and forth, it doesn't actually stay on, so yeah, it works, but damn, that battery's really low. It's not good for the ballast to run it like that. Should probably start the car. What I'm having to do here is identify what each one of these legs does. So this black is my negative, this white is my low beam, and this red is my high beam. So I gotta fix all this stuff and then seal it up after I rewire it, and I should be good. Okay, so now that I've rewired it, it's kind of hard to see, but in the reflection of the Malibu bumper, this is me activating the high beam. I'm just pulling it back. You can see a reflection in it. And then high beam just pushing it forward. So now I just gotta put it all back together. It did scare me. There were icicles there, and I sat down and they made a loud popping sound, and the whole truck leaned to one side. And after some messing around with wiring, and actually this might be wrong one. Where is it? The ballast I had on here might be bad because it would not come on for some reason, and I switched it out for another one I had. I got a whole pile of them, and that one works, which this one might actually be better because the wire is longer. Should probably be careful around that starter solenoid because I think that case is grounded, but either way, the wire is longer on this one than that side, and because there's a lot more going on here than there, it might be better to have it longer so I can mount it easier. You see how much shorter this one is? This one might be toast. But now to put it all together and mount everything nicely, and I should probably also do the heat shrink on here now that it's all crimped together. Okay, well now it's all together. It was quite a bit of fighting and almost breaking things, but these headlight housings are brittle. You will break them if you go too hard with torquing them down, and kind of started to hear cracking. Checked it, nothing was actually broken, but it's old plastic, it creaks when it moves, so yeah, it looks good though. I love it. Having electrical issues. Turns out that the ballast was fine, and what kept happening was this connection isn't very good, and it would just unplug itself, and the headlights would shut off. That was while I was working here, unplug and plug itself back in over and over. And I'd get up, I'd go look at this side. Well, this side's burning. And it was just from me wiggling everything here that it was throwing me off. But I checked the harness and all the connections are good. So just got to run a zip tie through that to hold it together, and then mount the ballasts. As you can see, there is a Hella Gen 3 clone, an eBay one that I had in the past. I actually think I might switch the ballasts around because this already has a nice mounting bracket, sort of, kind of. Probably gonna bolt it through here though, instead of here, just so it doesn't rattle. And it should be good after that. But yeah, and put the battery back. Lots of other stuff. Alright, so here I am, measured out 25 feet on relatively level ground. So I did the thing with 3 inches of cutoff drop at 25 feet, right? So park the truck 25 feet away from the surface you're measuring from, and basically measure up to where the center of the cutoff is, so like the center of the eye of the projector here. And then I walk out with the measuring tape, and like it was at 37 inches, so I measured up to 34, and now they're both adjusted up to 34. And yeah, this is my pattern now. So they do stick out quite a bit, the housings, and it's not that the projector's not aligned correctly inside of the housing, because it's perfectly even. The issue has more to do with the fact that this truck has been crashed many times throughout its life, so you kind of get that when all the body panels are misaligned. But yeah, there we go. And also, I guess now that you see the low beam, here's the high beam pattern. Not bad, really not bad. I'm happy with how it came out. You know, they're not the best, right? They're $50-something for 2 projectors. Junkyard ballast, honestly, are better than most aftermarket ones, those Hellas. But junkyard bulbs, but if you notice, they're both the same color because I got them both new. It was like a car that was wrecked, and I guess they took care of it. But either way, I'm happy with how it came out. Okay, so cut out the first piece of paint protection film and put it on. It's not perfectly like cut, but this top piece isn't what oxidizes. It's more towards the bottom. I've always noticed that on a lot of cars, including these trucks, and I do believe it has to do with when the sun shines for most of the day. It doesn't really hit this part because the hood, it overhangs, and so does the bezel, so it blocks it. So I cut this piece out on a headlight I have inside the house, only to realize that, well, it doesn't fit because these lenses are a little bit shorter than the factory ones. If you remember earlier in the video, I couldn't get them to go on. But anyway, I'm going to cut it and put it back. Okay, so, well, this film is, oops. Oh, maybe not. Stuck on. Gotta fix that, and I guess I missed that as well. And this, yikes. See, this side's not perfect. It's not delaminating or sticking up anywhere. And I just peeled the protective film off of the protective film, and it'll scratch if I try to push it on. So I think I'm gonna wrap a paper towel around this and hit it like that. I don't know. So messed around with it for a little bit. You can see this one's scratched up, so's the other one, just because the squeegee I was using, I guess, wasn't in the best condition. I used a plastic one, but upon closer inspection, I think this right here messed me up. The protective film wasn't good enough to protect that, which makes sense, but either way, this can be fixed by just tearing it off and reapplying it. And I thought I got all the bubbles out, but look at that. Wonderful. Yeah, this is something that needs to be done soon, before summer hits. And these are cheap eBay lenses. They're probably gonna be cooked in a very short period of time, and I'm kind of nervous to clear coat them because every single time I've tried clear coating lenses, they orange peel like hell, no matter what clear coat I use. But yeah, so there it is. Retrofit is done. Shines pretty far out. It's not glary from above. You get into the cutoff range. That's when the light hits. Aimed correctly. Everything's, you know, weatherproofed. Everything works. I drove with it. And I'm happy with how it came out. The truck looks 10 times better. The functionality is improved. It now draws 35 watts instead of 65, or however much the original bulbs did. And so it's a bit of a energy savings, which alternator works less hard. Very slight increase in gas mileage. Mind you, this truck gets, what, 21 on the highway, which sounds like a lie. But remember, GT40P heads, a bunch of other stuff, really improves the fuel economy. And I was driving from like one state to another like non-stop for a while.
at like 60 miles an hour the whole time. So any little bit of increase is good. I've been able to make a lot of improvements with this truck. So yeah, that's why I did it, how I did it. You know, not the most descriptive thing, but sure there's gonna be comments telling me that I did it all wrong and the truck's gonna burn down and explode and someone's gonna show up at my house, drag me out and beat me, but I don't care. I know in real life that's not gonna happen and this will be just fine. I'm happy with how it's done. It's not a disturbance to other people, so I'm happy with it.